The Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We get a roll call, please. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Oh, because I wasn't on the list. I have Supervisors Dodge, Boyd Frederick, and Supervisor Hallman are excused tonight. Also, just a quick notice that item K will be removed from the agenda tonight, as Supervisor Hallman is not here. We will start with citizen comments. Are there any citizens to speak?
Can you announce Grady's here just so we've got him on the roll call?
Oh, and Supervisor Grady is here, even though his...
Have him to it.
Oh, Supervisor Grady, could you sign in, please? And Supervisor Skalitsky, could you confirm yours, please? Thank you. Are we ready with supervisor comment? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Dan Campion. I live at 11303 232nd Avenue in Trevor. I am also a town board supervisor for the town of Salem and have been the liaison to the county board for the town in the past 6 years. Many of you know that on February 14th, the town of Salem and the village of Silver Lake are going to merge into one village called the Village of Salem Lakes. That's the good news. The bad news is I'm out of a job. But I am running. I'm a candidate for 3 positions that are available on the village board. If I don't make it, I just want to thank everyone here. I've made a lot of good friends, associates, had some good conversations with everyone. It's been my pleasure to be the liaison from the town to the county board. And again, I want to thank everyone for all the support you've given me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campion. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Marge Krupp, 11427 79th Place, Pleasant Prairie. And I'm here in support of Supervisor Hallman's resolution in support of expressing my solidarity with Muslims and all those targeted for their ethnicity. And I have a group of folks here that we're all in support of. I'm sorry that Supervisor isn't here. If everybody could stand that's in support. Thanks. All right. And we plan to be back when it's reintroduced. Thank you.
Good evening. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. Hi, I'm John Jaroszewski, 8723 108th Avenue, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. I'm also the Assistant Chancellor for the University Advancement at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Legislative Committee resolution in support of the UW System 2017-2019 biennial budget request. Earlier this afternoon, I'm pleased to report that Governor Scott Walker issued a media release announcing a reinvestment in the UW system. Indeed, the governor has included the UW system request of $42.5 million in the 2017-2019 biennium budget, and he has also proposed some additional funding. This investment will help keep college affordable for the students and families, develop the workforce needs of the state now and in the future, and reinvigorate the state's economy and enhance the lives of our citizens. And UW-Parkside is thrilled about this release from the governor today, and that he, Governor Walker, understands the strong and relevant investment for the short and long-term needs of the state. And I just would like to affirm a few key points as to why having publicly funded higher education within our county borders is a great value. First, about our students. Who do we serve? Quite frankly, the majority of our students are your children, are your friends, are your neighbors, your co-workers, indeed our elected officials. Today, 40% of Kenosha County students who are attending a UW institution attend the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. 20% of everyone in Kenosha County who has earned a bachelor's degree has earned it from the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. Those 2 points above are extremely important, especially when you consider the growth in our region and the demand for highly skilled talent. Certainly an accessible and affordable university is of great value to current employers as well as those employers considering moving their operations to our county. As the governor indicated in his release, he wants to ensure our university is meeting the high demand industries and careers of our state, both now and in the future. And we're doing that at UW-Parkside. 90% of all students that come from UW-Parkside and apply for medical school are accepted. The national average is just over 40%. And these doctors return and stay. Indeed, my child's doctor is a UW-Parkside graduate. My oral surgeon's a UW-Parkside graduate, and I bet one of your doctors is a Parkside graduate. Another high-skill, high-demand area is from our computer science department. We've enjoyed tremendous growth in that area, and right now I can confirm that 99% of the students that graduated with the UW-Parkside computer science degree last year are employed in their chosen profession. Finally, our teacher education program has been retooled and is up and running. KUSD is deeply engaged with this program and hosts our students while they're in the training process for the entire process. That gets them connected to our community, and this too addresses our local need for more highly qualified K through 12 educators that are committed to staying in our region. The resolution tonight aligns with the governor's intention to reinvest in the UW system and therefore UW-Parkside. However, we also understand that the investment in capital projects is yet to be announced and might not be determined for several weeks. To that end, the resolution seeks the governor's support to invest in the capital and infrastructure of the UW system. Several members of this group were on campus 2 weeks ago to tour a need we have on campus that would be included in the capital budget for repairs and upgrades to our beautiful Wiley Hall. Should the capital request referenced in the resolution ultimately be approved in the next state budget, this would come and support direct investment at UW-Parkside. We very much appreciate your support, as the capital investment in our campus is part and parcel of sustaining a well-maintained and effective learning environment. So again, thank you for your willingness to bring this important resolution forward, the Legislative Committee, and I hope you can endorse this resolution as an endorsement of the high value both UW-Parkside or UW system and UW-Parkside bring to our region. Thank you very much.
Any other citizen comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
Mary Magdalene Moser, 2106 73rd Street. Good evening. I am here to express my shock and outrage over the historical inaccuracy of one phrase within agenda item I-84, the proposed resolution entitled Anti-Muslim Bias Resolution, which states, whereas the history of Islam in the United States began even before its founding, when African Muslims were enslaved and brought to the Americas. I can barely comprehend the grotesque level of ignorance of the history of the world it took to compose that phrase, but I shall try. History must be respected, but to do that, we must acknowledge the facts upon which it is known. The transatlantic slave trade dates from approximately 1650 to 1900, paralleling the dates of the last Islamic caliphate prior to the Islamic State, the Ottoman Empire, which was based in Asia Minor or modern-day Turkey. During the same time period, the Ottoman Empire was attempting to invade, conquer, and enslave Europe to the north while simultaneously defending itself against a formidable Islamic threat from the east in the form of the powerful Mughal Empire of Persia, Hindustan, and Southeast Asia. These two draining endeavors allowed the Ottomans to overlook rapidly growing dissent within their own empire coming from the resource-poor area known then as now as Dar al-Saud, or the House of Saud, or the 21st century Islamic majority nation state of Saudi Arabia. Prior to its discovery of the vast wealth associated with petroleum, the House of Saud, at the time before the transatlantic slave trade, was one of the poorest resource-lacking areas of the known world. Seizing upon their Ottoman overlords' preoccupation with invasion to the north and defense to the east, the ethnic Arab population sought to invade, conquer, and plunder the vast resources of the African continent to the west. The reason for this was simple. While the Ottomans had conquered and colonized the coastal cities of North Africa, they could not breach the vast arid wasteland of the Sahara Desert. This obstacle to Ottoman conquest presented no such barrier to the vassal kingdom of the House of Saud, who easily crossed the desert to invade and plunder the seemingly limitless resources of sub-Saharan Africa, which leads us back to the supply side of the transatlantic slave trade. The House of Saud, then as now, is an Islamic majority entity governed by the Sharia, or Islamic law. Islamic law forbids, under penalty of death, the enslavement of a Muslim by a Muslim. These ethnic Arab Islamic invaders of Africa immediately engaged in the Islamic law-sanctioned hunting and enslaving of black African non-Muslims targeted specifically and solely because they were non-Muslims. The inhuman enslavement of black African non-Muslims was completely controlled on its supply side by ethnic Arab invaders and colonizers throughout the entire history of the transatlantic slave trade in Africa. The largest and longest operating scholarly academic project tracing the origins of the black African victims of the transatlantic slave trade provides mountains of historic documents proving what I have just said. So you don't have to believe me, but I hope you believe the African Studies departments of the University of California at Berkeley, Emory University, and Harvard University, because they are the driving forces behind documenting the history I have just shared with you. There is only one academic entity in the entire world that disputes these historic facts, and that entity is, unsurprisingly, Al-Azhar University in Cairo, dubbed Sunni Islam's most prestigious university, and, wait for it, completely funded by none other than the House of Saud. I cannot even find words to describe the injustice of re-victimizing the 12 million black Africans who were enslaved by invading ethnic Arab colonizers by falsely claiming that the victims represent the religious ideology of those who hunted, enslaved, and sold them like animals. Therefore, and because February is Black History Month, I ask you to reject the proposed anti-Muslim bias resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jody Mierhoff, and I live at 121 68th Place in Kenosha. I'm here to speak in support of the resolution introduced tonight to condemn hate speech and violence in Kenosha. Hate crimes against Muslim Americans have reached their highest levels since September 11th, according to the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center. These have included assaults and several firebombings against temples and Islamic centers. In 2012, the Sikh temple attack in Wisconsin resulted in the death of 6 worshipers and the wounding of 4 others. Anti-Muslim incidents are at the top of both the ACLU and Southern Poverty Center's list of harassment, far outpacing any other form of hate crime. I brought some charts with me. I don't know if I'm able to share them or not, but on the City of Kenosha website, it states that Kenosha has small-town charm, and it celebrates arts, entertainment, history, heritage, and education.
I think we should also celebrate diversity. While Muslim Americans have frequently become the target of hate crimes in our country, they are not alone. On the county website, Mr. Cruiser's welcome statement says that Kenosha is one of the 10 fastest growing counties in the United States. This indicates to me that Kenosha is a leader and that it is proud of its ability to lead. And so I would like to ask you to adopt the resolution as a way to embrace the diversity of our community and to show that you are a leader in condemning violence and hate speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Gina Walkington. I live at 18916 116th Street in Bristol. I am here tonight as a woman, a mother, an advocate, and an ally to speak about the resolution towards the equal application of justice that will be presented before the board tonight. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. The role of the Attorney General requires unbiased implementation of the law. One of the most important pieces to this is ensuring the equal protection under the law of vulnerable and often marginalized members of our society. Jeff Sessions has demonstrated on countless occasions that he is unable to separate his personal beliefs and the law. As a woman, I question his lack of commitment to the support of the rights of those who share my gender. In 2013, he voted against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which provides a response and support to the victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, date violence, and stalking. He has also shown questionable judgment when it comes to what constitutes sexual assault. As a mother, I question the view held by Jeff Sessions when it comes to children with disabilities. His view of the Individuals with Disabilities Act was that it may be the single most irritating problem for teachers throughout America today. Excuse me. And he also suggested that accommodations for students with disabilities are a big factor in the decline of the civility and discipline in American classrooms. In addition, while serving as Alabama's Attorney General, he fought against an order from an Alabama Circuit Court judge requesting that the state fix the inequitable funding which had been preventing the poorest districts from providing even the basic services to students in need. As an ally to the LGBTQ community, I question his ability to provide this section of our society equal protection under the law. In response to the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage, he stated that the highest courts had redefined a sacred and ancient institution, continuing on to say, "It is not an act of courage, but a supreme arrogance to pretend that the wisdom of 5 judges is greater than all the men and women who have voted on this issue in the 50 states, and the men and women whose convictions have defined the course of Western civilization." He has also opposed the Matthew Shepard Act, which expanded the definition of a hate crime to include motives based on gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability, citing that he didn't believe it was necessary. I am proud of this community that has the foresight to offer the resolution in condemnation of Mr. Sessions' appointment, and I implore each of you to vote yes to adopting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
Melissa Carlberg, 2612 73rd Street. Good evening, board and supervisors. I'm a mother of 2 young children. I'm also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Wisconsin. I work as a clinical therapist in a mental health outpatient clinic for a local hospital. All day long, I work with individuals and families who suffer from histories of violence and abuse, bullying, poverty, and trauma. Despite never doing anything like this before, I got some childcare so I could come here to tonight to support the resolution that I heard about, put forth condemning violence and hate speech and expressing solidarity with Muslims and all those targeted for their ethnicity, race, and religion, because I am a concerned citizen of Kenosha County and the United States. The Southern Poverty Law Center reported that between November 9th and December 12th of 2016, there were 1,094 bias-related crime incidents. Of this number, 315 incidents were deemed anti-immigrant, 221 anti-Black, 112 anti-Muslim, 109 anti-LGBT, 26 anti-Trump, and 6 out of the 26, it should be noted, were also anti-white in nature, and 2 of the 1,094 were anti-white. On November 14th, 2016, NBC News quoted that after a 20-year low of United States hate crime numbers reported in 2014, 2015 saw a marked increase in hate crimes, largely due to a 67% increase in crimes against Muslims, according to an FBI report. In the whole year of 2015, there were 5,850 reported hate crime incidents, 257 which were deemed anti-Muslim hate crimes. Compare this 5,850 number to the 1,094 number of crimes that happened in the 1 month following our election alone. A graduate student in mental health that I know, who is a future colleague of mine, also a resident of the city of Kenosha, who's dark-skinned, a young American man of Filipino descent, told me he was physically assaulted by 2 young men at a gas station at nighttime 1 month ago in the city of Kenosha, and as they were hitting him, they were shouting at him, "Go back to where you came from." I did not get a chance to ask why my acquaintance did not report or press charges. In 2016, there were 26 murders of transgender people in the United States, making it the deadliest year on record for trans people. Almost all of these victims were also people of color. Crimes targeting Sikhs have also apparently escalated since 9/11. We know that the 6 people were murdered and 4 wounded by a white supremacist in the Oak Creek Sikh Temple massacre in 2012. In Wisconsin statistics, according to the FBI database on hate crimes in 2014, Wisconsin had 51 reported hate crimes, 28 of which were race-based, 9 targeted on an individual's sexual orientation, 6 religious-based, 5 due to an individual's ethnicity, and 3 motivated by an individual's disability. 11 of these incidences occurred in Milwaukee, and no data is available yet for 2015 and 16. Advocates from the Wisconsin Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights said the FBI number that I just mentioned is likely inaccurately low, and that the vast majority of hate crimes go unreported. Victims aren't willing to report their crimes due to fear of exposure, retaliation, or increased attention, especially with regard to sexual orientation or gender identity. Law enforcement doesn't take their complaints seriously. The bias apparently underlying hate crimes is often difficult, if not impossible, to prove in court. Reggie Jackson, board chair of Americans Black Holocaust Museum, has testified that looking at larger data sets show that just 1 in 35 hate crimes is reported as such. Well, many of you may be aware that Wisconsin has a hate crime law in the form of a penalty enhancer, which protects those who intentionally are targeted for a crime based on their race, religion, color, disability, sexual orientation, national origin, or ancestry. This penalty enhancer is only applied after going before a jury and being proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime's motivation was bias-related. The Wisconsin law also does not cover crimes motivated by gender, gender identity, age, or political affiliation, according to the data compiled by the Anti-Defamation League, nor does the state mandate law enforcement training on hate crimes. Even federal law covers crimes motivated by race, religion, national origin, but it does not include sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, or disability. For all these reasons, it appears to me that national as well as local violence directed toward individuals on the basis of bias will continue to be a problem that necessitates our attention and concern. Kenosha County is a diverse county made up of a wide array of races, ethnicities, ability levels, religions, and sexual orientations, regardless of any partisan-based policy or political orientation. I ask you, does Kenosha County stand against bias-based violence, or does it remain silent, condoning the status quo of rising hate crimes numbers?
Please wrap up your comments.
I ask that you consider your position on these questions as you consider approving this resolution, and I would advocate that Kenosha County stands for the safety and peace of all its citizens, and that acceptance of this resolution helps to provide a foundation that greater work toward establishing this safety and peace can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Daniel E. Jensen, 8052 42nd Avenue. I am the father of Mark Jensen, who you may know. He was written up in the front page of the Kenosha News again as incarcerated in the Kenosha jail. I'm here to give you a current update, not to complain about him being in jail or asking you to do anything about it. I'm here to apprise you of the risks that Kenosha and Kenosha County has. And I'm going to give you this document so that you can make an appraisal of your own risks. I'm doing this as a good citizen because I'm a Kenosha resident and I love this community and I don't want harm to come to it. You'll see what I mean as I go through this article. This is a current update since the last court hearing in January, a month ago. Unemployed Special Prosecutor Robert Jamboy told the court he couldn't do the trial in June. I need to digress a bit. He was convicted in the Kenosha court. The federal court in Milwaukee ordered his release or his retrial. Jamboy decided to appeal. He went to the 7th District Court in Chicago and lost that appeal. The court said, release Jensen immediately or retry him. Jamboy says, we'll retry him. He's been sitting in there in the jail for over a year, waiting for the trial that doesn't come. Then, at the last hearing last month, unemployed Special Prosecutor Robert Jamboy told the court he couldn't do the trial in June, July, and August of this year because he wanted to babysit his 2 grandchildren for the whole summer. He asked for another trial extension until September 27th, 2017. He was trying to get Judge Kirkman to remove him as special prosecutor and end the case right then and there. That attempt by Jamboy failed because the defense attorney reluctantly agreed to the trial delay. Judge Kirkman had no reason to deny the trial extension because both prosecution and defense agreed they wanted a trial extension. Because it defeated Special Prosecutor Jamboy to get Judge Kirkman to dismiss him from the special prosecutor job, that is the background of this case. What has transpired since January hearing is the Wisconsin Department of Justice has announced that they will not provide resources, meaning money, to continue the state's prosecution of the case. They essentially are abandoning it. This means that Kenosha County will have to pay the costs, not the state. That's your risk. That's what I'm telling you is your risk. You need to make yourself apprised of what your risks are. That's my purpose in coming here to tell you. District Attorney Gravely says the cost to Kenosha would be about $80,000. This is totally wrong. By allowing the Wisconsin Department of Justice to shift that trial prosecution to Kenosha County and have Kenosha County pay for it, this could be a dollar amount turning into millions, maybe in excess of $100 million plus, because of waiting lawsuits of plaintiffs who are waiting in the wings to see who they are going to sue. The state of Wisconsin, Attorney Jamboy, the St. Louis University Laboratory, who faked evidence that Julie Jensen, the wife of my son, was poisoned with antifreeze. They falsified the evidence, and that Julie Jensen died of antifreeze poisoning when she had not. Judge Schroeder put Mark Jensen back in jail on July 31st at a court hearing without allowing, and that was not this year either, that was several years ago. At a court hearing without allowing Mark Jensen to hire a construction company manager for his construction company. By 4 p.m. that same day, the company tools and supplies had disappeared, and Judge Schroeder put approximately 30 of Mark's employees out of work and left many partially constructed projects unfinished. And the lumber company refused to provide lumber and supplies to the Jensen Construction Group and went broke, as did the lumber company. These losses are not included in Gravely's loss estimate of $80,000. There are more losses for that which Kenosha County could be liable. You may ask why Judge Schroeder and Special Prosecutor Jamboy were so passionate in their efforts to convict Jensen. It was because Pleasant Prairie Petroleum, Cosman, had 50 inappropriate visits with Julie Jensen at her home, following his chief's instructions not to visit her. He admitted on the witness stand that he had done this, 50 inappropriate contacts.
Please wrap up your comments.
Pardon?
Please wrap up your comments. Your time is up.
Okay. Can I give this to you?
Yes.
Can I approach?
Why don't you hand it to one of the supervisors in the back? Any other citizen comments? Citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? Seeing none, citizen comments are now closed. We'll move on with our agenda. I have no other announcements for this evening. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've reported on all the projects that Facilities Committee is doing, so I'm not going to hit everybody with those. Again, I've got two items I'm going to report on. At our meeting last evening, we approved our 2017 golf rates, and the golf rates are going to be exactly the same rates as last year and the year prior. We are, by streamlining operations, making money at the golf courses, we want to keep adding leagues, which we've added 4 more here in the last weeks. See no need to raise rates. We are right in the middle of the pack as far as golf rates are concerned, and that's where our staff desires to stay, and that is the figures they brought to us last night. So the committee approved those. And one project that I am going to report on is the big one that I reported on at budget time and since, and that's the Highway H project, or Highway S, excuse me, 142. That is this year just in the design phase, and design right now from Highway H to Brumbeck Boulevard in Summers is 60% complete. But we ran into some challenges, and I'm not going to get into it in depth, but the airport right-of-way is going to be maybe a major challenge, maybe something that could totally stop the project. And the extension of an airport runway extends their right-of-way and their accident zone, to put it simply, and that brings the intersection of S and H into that zone. So at this point, we're looking at a land release from the FAA to the city of Kenosha, which we've been told probably will not happen. So there's a whole lot of meetings, redesign, and thinking going on right now, but that's a major roadblock that I just wanted everyone to be informed of. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Any other comments, reports? Seeing none, we'll move on.
County Executive Appointments, 45, Horace Staples to serve as the Director of the Kenosha County Division of Emergency Management.
Refer to Judiciary and Law.
Ordinance 33 from Finance and Administration Committee, an ordinance electing to proceed under Section 75.521 Wisconsin Stats in relation to the enforcement of collection of tax liens. Rose, yes. Frederick, excused. Dodge, yes. Gens, yes. Retzloff, yes. Kubicki, excused. Esposito, yes.
Supervisor Rhodes, you have the floor.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, I would move Ordinance 33.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Rose.
All right, this is a technical ordinance which will assist the Corporation Council in enforcement of the collection of tax liens. The Corporation Council drafted this as an effort to ensure that more properties who are delinquent in payment of their taxes are foreclosed more rapidly. He believes that this will assist his office in doing that, in addition to the other procedures that they have. I think there's a lot of technical requirements here that I don't think we need to deal with this evening or talk about. Corporation Council, I think, can answer those kind of specific questions. But in short, this assists the Corporation Council's office in enforcement of the collection of tax liens on behalf of the county. I think that's good reason to support it.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 84 from Supervisor Hallman, a resolution condemning violence and hate speech, expressing solidarity with Muslims and all those targeted for their ethnicity, race, or religion.
This item is being referred to the Executive Committee. I would like all the chair people to see me after the meeting so we can schedule a meeting. Supervisor Grady, did you have something?
No, Madam Chair, that was my request as well. It should be referred to committee. I'd like to have this thing vetted, take a look at all the details that are on here, and it should see the light of day. I fully expect it to come back out of committee, but I'd like to have appropriate information here and Supervisor Hallman to be here as well before we act on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready? Go on.
Resolution 85 from the Legislative Committee, a resolution in support of UW System 2017-2019 biennial budget request. Boyd Frederick, yes. Hallman, yes. Berg, yes. Decker, yes. Franco, yes. Poole, yes. Sklitsky, excuse me, let me run that by you again. Boyd Frederick, yes. Hallman, yes. Andy Berg, yes. Decker, no. Franco, yes. Poole, no. Sklitsky, no.
Supervisor Berg, you have the floor.
On behalf of the Legislative Committee, I move Resolution 85.
I have a first by Supervisor Berg and a second by Supervisor Franco. Supervisor Berg.
The UW system plays a key role in developing our future workforce. Our investment today ensures student success by making college even more affordable, providing greater opportunities for students to earn their degree, and helping to bridge the gap between higher education and our workforce. We want students to fuel the growth of our economy. That was said by Governor Scott Walker today. Currently, there was no capital dollars provided in the previous biennial. At UW Parkside, there is currently water leaking through the courtyard and into the basement of Wiley Hall, which further is deteriorating the building. In order to replace a valve, they have to turn off the steam to 4 buildings, not just the one building. Parkside has the lowest tuition in the UW system. They could raise the funds through a tuition increase, but as you know, there has been also a tuition freeze for the past 2 years. The Parkside vice chancellors have trimmed every possible avenue that they can within Parkside. If they have to trim more, they could be at risk of losing programs. Parkside has as was said earlier, a 90% acceptance rate into the medical schools. They compete and win national marketing events each year against top-tier schools from the Big Ten and other large conferences. And as you might know, Parkside has ranked nationally for the past 2 years in basketball and wrestling. They are the only Division II university in Wisconsin. They do great and wonderful things for the community. I ask for your support, as does University of Wisconsin Parkside.
Thank you, Supervisor Berg. Supervisor Wamble, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would also like to thank Parkside's Vice Chancellor for being here tonight. I have some reservations about this resolution, but I also know Parkside is in need of capital improvement and repair. I took a tour of their facilities with Supervisor Berg and Retzloff, and I saw, like Supervisor Berg said, corrosion, leaky pipes, a 50-year-old original furnace system, a leaky basement. So Parkside needs several $1 million worth of repairs and updates. However, my reservations come in the form of using taxpayer dollars to fix all problems. And I found out that very little fundraising is done by Parkside, whether in the form of alumni support or community fundraising. I was also worried that if the funds were released by the state, Parkside would be way down on the list of beneficiaries. Well, I have learned that Parkside is third on the list of priorities to at least receive some of the state money, and maybe more, as we heard tonight. So I will support this resolution this time, but I strongly encourage the UW Parkside administration to increase its fundraising efforts to offset some of the costs to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wamble. Supervisor Retzloff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Wamble mentioned a couple things I was gonna talk about, but I am going to support this, but I have some hesitancies, and mine more revolves around the politics of this. They explained to us how they get their money. It's gone through regents, and there's a priority list, and it goes to the state finance committee, and it reeks of politics. It just has to by its very nature. You've got people that make decisions that are in it. And my concern is, if I was asking for $47 million, I'd either have, I would know every regent by name. I would be in there. I'm concerned that Parkside didn't express a whole lot of concern, willingness to get involved in that thing. If they want this money, I think just sending a long listed needs letter to them in a form, I don't know how long that's going to go. Mr. Wambutt mentioned they're third on the list. We'll see. That's my only comment. Obviously, they do need the money. It's a 60-year-old buildings, but they just, again, I felt that they were lacking something in desires and knowledge and knowing how this is done, and I was a little surprised with that, considering how important and how difficult it is to get money from the state, and they should know every ifs, ands, and buts on how to do that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I voted against this in committee, and it wasn't because I don't believe Parkside needs to repair Wiley Hall and fix it up. The reason why I voted against it is because the wording doesn't specifically address Parkside wanting or needing these repairs. It addresses asking for the governor to give the UW system all the money it asked for. It didn't specifically say, hey, Governor, can you please send the money to Parkside? The day after we voted on this resolution, it was in the newspaper that UW Oshkosh has been paying $42 million, or has $42 million in loans that it has been paying on from the UW Oshkosh Foundation. That they're the foundation loans, but the new chancellor up there discovered that the actual school was paying these loans. The UW system obviously is not watching where their money is being spent, and this is why we have these problems, and I believe this resolution doesn't address that, and if it had, I would have supported it, but this doesn't address the whole problem with the UW and their spending problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Skalitsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also didn't support it in committee. I do support UW Parkside. I think they're doing a fine job. I really appreciated the fact when they came into our committee and clearly described and explained what they've done to improve themselves. My objection has to do with the UW system. I think that they're extremely inefficient with the massive amounts of money that they do get. Tuition overall is excessive, and I've seen no evidence whatsoever in a concrete fashion that shows they have made efforts to improve their efficiencies, to reduce cost, so that they wouldn't have to keep coming back to the taxpayers with their hand out and asking for tens of millions of dollars each and every year. Once I see that from the UW system, I would support them. I support their efforts. I just don't support their approach to improving themselves and becoming more efficient. And as a result, I won't support this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Parkside is really one of the jewels of this community. It's a public institution. They deserve our support. This is one of the big contributors to the attention that this community receives. It's a very positive for economic development. It's an excellent place for students in this area to attend college. I can think of no downside to this resolution. I hadn't planned on speaking on this resolution this evening because I thought that it would pass without discussion. And I'm surprised that I find that there is opposition to it. But I would call for a roll call vote, and I would urge that those of you who have any reservations consider the fact that our endorsement here is being asked by the administration of the University of Parkside. It's being supported by people in this community who have children there, who may have children in attendance in the future, and it's very positive for economic development. So regardless of what may be your reservations, I can see absolutely no downside in the support of this resolution tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Decker, did you have something else? No. Okay. Seeing no other lights, we have a roll call on the board. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Kubicki.
Thank you. Yeah, I too will be supporting this resolution tonight. I think, like Supervisor Rose has mentioned, Parkside brings nothing but good to this community as far as education goes. As far as giving them monies, I think they need to have more monies. They need to get the money from the state. They tried to raise tuition. Tuition wasn't allowed. And so they can't get the money, so we're going to try to give them the money. I'm supportive of this resolution wholeheartedly. As an upcoming graduate from Parkside myself, I want to see it stay open, and therefore, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kubicki. Seeing no other lights now, a roll call has been asked for. Yes, if you're in favor of the resolution, no if you are against it. Motion passes.
Resolution 86 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution to appoint Catherine Bothy to serve on the Kenosha County Civil Service Commission. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Wamble, yes. Finance Administration, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, excused. Gens, yes. Dodge, yes. Kubicki, excused. Esposito, yes. Retzloff, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
I move Resolution 86.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Blau.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This appointment is for Catherine Bothy, who has previously served on the County Civil Service Commission. She'll be succeeding herself. She's quite active in the community, and I request, or the committee requests your support on this appointment.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have one nay. Motion passes.
Resolution 87 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Cynthia H. Johnson to serve as a member of the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Blau, yes. Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
I move Resolution 87.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Wamble. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This appointment, Cynthia Johnson, is also a reappointment. This is for the Local Emergency Planning Committee. She is our current director of the Kenosha County Division of Health. Comes highly recommended, and committee requests your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 88 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution for a probationary cabaret license for Wilmot Mountain. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 88.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Blau.
Okay, thank you again, Madam Chair. The Kenosha Sheriff's Department has conducted an inspection of the Wilmot Mountain premises. They found it to be in conformity with the cabaret ordinance, and so they believe that probationary license should be granted, and the committee asks for your support.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 89 from the Public Works Facilities Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Clement Obama as the Director of the Kenosha County Division of Highways and Kenosha County Highway Commissioner. Alverman, yes. Grady, yes. Gilmore, yes. Wamble, yes. Bostrom, yes. O'Day, yes. Franco, yes.
Supervisor Alverman, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 89.
I have a first by Supervisor Alverman and a second by Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We all know, or you all know Clement from his work this past year and a couple months for Kenosha County. When Mr. Sipsma hinted at retirement a couple of years ago, the administration was alert and knowing that a plan needed to be put in place, and that plan was very logical and has worked excellently. Mr. Sipsma was with us for 37 years, served as the highway commissioner and the head of the division. So Clement was hired and brought in to work with Mr. Sipsma for the past year and a couple months. He brings his own natural resume to this job, and that is why he was hired. But that year was precious in the time that he spent with Gary and with the knowledge that Mr. Sipsma can give you. Naturally, you have to have your own talents. That's why we are urging you to approve this unanimously. Clement has a work history, and actually he told me when he took this job, it was like coming home, because he was with the city of Kenosha for quite some time, if you read the resume. Really loved the area, worked in California for a couple of municipalities, and was hired by us at the time he was working for the state of Wisconsin, doing some of the major projects. I believe at that time he was on the one that I used to curse at, the Highway 21, going up the freeway when I'd get there and all the lanes were closed and things. So that was one of the ones he wrapped up, or it could have been the zoo, one of those two. But last night at our meeting, Ray Arbit said his connections with the people from the state have been already immeasurable. He said the people from the state have told him that they would love to have him back, and we said we're not doing that. So I am asking for your support this evening, and looking forward to another long-term commitment from a dedicated employee. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Supervisor Grady, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just a further comment. This came out in committee last night with Supervisor Alverman, myself, and the rest of the committee members. We also have to acknowledge our Director of Public Works and the county executive for having succession policy in place. So when these people that are tenured 35, 40 years decide they're going to leave and retire, which of course is going to happen, there is something to replace them. Same thing happened with our Parks Director. John Woody retired. Matt Collins was working with John for a year in that same capacity. So not only is it a trial to see if it's a good match, but it's imparting that knowledge and being able to carry forward. So that's something that you can take some, I guess, small measure of satisfaction in. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 90 from Chairwoman Brunig, a resolution to approve the appointment of Steve Bostrom to serve on the Kenosha County Land and Water Conservation Committee.
Supervisor Decker.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
I have a second by Vice Chair Esposito. All those in favor to suspend the rules say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rules are suspended. If everyone has had a chance to read on the resolution, we are going to appoint Supervisor Bostrom to the Land and Water Conservation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Claims 22, Mary Farmer, damage to property.
Refer to Corporation Council.
Approval of the January 17, 2017 minutes by Supervisor O'Day.
Supervisor O'Day, you have the floor.
Move the motion, please.
I'm sorry?
Move the motion to approve the
I
minutes.
have a first by Supervisor O'Day and a second by Supervisor Grady. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a first by Supervisor Gable and a second by Supervisor Franco. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.